A love story of Sarah and John is a heartfelt English listening practice set in the charming town of Willow Creek. It follows the quiet yet powerful journey of two ordinary souls, Sarah, a gentle schoolteacher with a heart full of dreams, and John, a humble carpenter shaped by hardship and silence. When fate brings them together on a rainy afternoon, their love unfolds not with drama, but through everyday moments, quiet support, and deep understanding. This timeless story reminds us that real love isn't loud or perfect, it's steady, selfless, and lasting. In the quiet town of Willow Creek, where the air always smelled like blooming jasmine and the streets held stories whispered by the wind, lived a girl named Sarah Williams. She wasn't extraordinary in the way magazines often describe women, but to those who knew her, she was magic. Sarah had a voice that calmed storms and eyes that held the softness of dusk. Raised in a modest home by a schoolteacher mother and a nurse father, she grew up knowing how to give without being asked, and how to love without needing much in return. Her world was filled with books, wildflowers, hand-me-down dresses, and dreams that she whispered to the stars each night. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, there was John Carter, a man shaped by silence and strength. His childhood was carved by struggle. His father had left before he learned how to tie his shoelaces, and his mother worked 2 jobs just to keep the roof from leaking and food on the table. But John never complained. Instead, he learned how to fix things. Broken chairs, broken doors, eventually broken hearts. John didn't speak much. He wasn't the man who lit up rooms, but he was the one who stayed behind and turned off the lights, quietly making sure everyone got home safely. He ran a small carpentry business out of a dusty workshop that smelled of cedar and hope. His hands were always rough, his eyes always kind. He didn't have much, an old truck, a few loyal clients, and a dream he rarely shared. But he had a heart that beat for something more. Their worlds collided on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Sarah had just finished buying groceries for her mother, and was walking home under the drizzle when the bottom of her paper bag tore open. Apples, oranges, and a bottle of milk crashed to the ground, and with them, her composure. She knelt down, muttering under her breath, when a hand reached out to help her. John. Either of them spoke at first. Just picked up the scattered fruit together, their hands brushing now and then. Sarah looked up and smiled, her hair dripping rain, her cheeks flushed. "Thank you," she said. "It's nothing," John replied. "You smell like sawdust," she teased, half laughing. He grinned. "You smell like warm bread." That was the beginning. Their love didn't explode like fireworks. It grew slowly, like the sun rising behind mountains, steady, certain, beautiful. They went on quiet dates, coffee in her kitchen, long walks by the lake, evenings under the old oak tree near the edge of town. They didn't need much. Just each other. Sarah found herself telling John things she never told anyone. Her fear of growing old alone, how she once wished she were more than just a teacher, how she still talked to her late father at night when no one was listening. John listened. Always. He wasn't good with flowery words, but he had a way of making her feel heard, seen, cherished. In return, Sarah saw through his silence. She saw the boy who had to grow up too fast. She saw the man who was still afraid of not being enough. One night, lying under the stars on the hood of John's truck, he turned to her and said quietly, "You make me feel like I belong somewhere." Sarah kissed his forehead. "You belong here. With me." Their love deepened with time, but life, as always, brought storms. Sarah lost her father one autumn morning. The grief sat in her chest like a stone, heavy and unmoving. 4 days she couldn't eat, couldn't speak. John never left her side. He didn't try to fix it, he just held her. Held her while she cried, held her when she didn't know how to keep going. Later that year, John's business nearly collapsed when his biggest client backed out. He came home one night, broken and tired, convinced he'd failed. Sarah cupped his face and whispered, "We'll rebuild. Together. We always do." They weren't rich in the way the world counts riches. Their home was small, 2 bedrooms, creaky floors, paint that peeled on the windowsills. But inside, there was music, warmth, cinnamon rolls, and laughter. The walls held the echoes of whispered I love yous and the clink of coffee mugs at 6 a.m. John, ever the craftsman, carved Sarah a wooden bookshelf one Christmas. At the bottom corner, hidden from view, he engraved, "For the stories we'll live, not just read." Sarah cried when she found it. Years passed. They didn't chase the world, they built one of their own. John proposed one evening under the old oak tree, with a ring he made from an old silver spoon. He couldn't afford diamonds, but he etched into the band, with painstaking care, the words, "My forever home." Sarah didn't need anything more. They married in the garden of her childhood home, surrounded by string lights, friends, family, and the kind of love that doesn't come from grand gestures but from quiet loyalty. Later they had a daughter, Lily, who had Sarah's eyes and John's quiet strength. They raised her on bedtime stories, honest work, and unconditional love. They grew older, but never apart. Even when their hair turned gray and their steps slowed, you could still find them holding hands on their porch, watching the sun dip below the hills, their hearts still full of the love that began with a grocery bag on a rainy day. And in that small town of Willow Creek, people often pointed to the old couple by the oak tree and whispered to each other, "That's what real love looks like." And that is how Sarah and John loved. Not perfectly, but deeply, quietly, forever.